So, how are you doing today, Olive?
I am well. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today and welcome to the TPA Full Disclosure Series. Firstly, can you introduce yourself to our readers and tell our viewers, our audience, what you do?
So my name is Olive Namtebi. I am the Executive Director at Albinism Umbrella, an organization that advocates for the rights of persons with albinism. Our dream is to have the albinism community be heard and included in the social services.
Awesome.
Mm.
So I noticed that you trained and you have worked extensively in accounting. Can you tell us what drew you into fighting for the rights of people with albinism, apart from the fact that you are one yourself? Why is the work you do around albinism, why is it important?
You're right. My background is really in accounting, and yeah, I went up to the professional level, that is getting the ACCA certification. I can say this was a childhood dream, which I achieved, and I felt along my path, my career path, I had reached the epitome of accounting, in my opinion. So besides that, yes, I live with albinism. I am a person with albinism, but I hate social injustice, or I hate injustice. And in my path, my career path, a moment came when I felt I think I had gone above average of my peers. And then this for me came to realize that I could actually do something to the very people to which I belong. So for me, the work with albinism is that fulfillment that I have, that I am causing change, a positive change, above all, solving some social injustice.
Right. But I understand the perception of where you are coming from, but why do you think other people should care about it? Probably people who do not know anything about albinism or people who are not albino themselves.
Mhm, mhm. Why other people need to care about it is one, we are humans too,
Mm.
and many authors have said if we are to move in this development agenda, if as a country or as a village you are all developed to the level of the last person in that village, so until we all move at the same pace, we will not achieve the milestones that we so desire. People say if you want to move very fast, you move alone. If you want to go very far, you move with everybody. So it is not only their interest, but actually responsibility, that they ought to be interested. And for me, why I let the entire community know, because we are part of the community, first of all. And not to isolate, for lack of a better way, they, outside the albinism community, discriminate, stigmatize us as if we are not part of them. And quite often I remind my audience that you are the reason I am the way I am. This is a genetic condition inherited from my parents. So I should not be the person to blame for the way I look, but you, who is the reason why I appear the way I do. So it's about sensitization and getting to know that today it's me, tomorrow it's you. This is a recessive gene. It may be your sister, it may be your brother, or even just a neighbor that, destiny gets you there. Please don't run out, don't be freaked out. This is just another kind of person. So I really believe people should be interested, because this is part of life. This is us. And like we're in this global agenda of the SDGs, leaving no one behind, the poverty, and the many things that we have really on the global line. So we feel that as a minority group, people need to care. Everybody needs to care and uplift us to our level, that we may contribute to the development of the various constituencies where we are. Mm.
So, so from what you've said, inclusion is a core part of your work at Albinism Umbrella, which you heard. So what are some of the challenges that you face in achieving the work that you do at Albinism Umbrella, and how do you mitigate these challenges?
The challenges are many, and some of them is really, I can call them in two, societal and then own challenges, personal. Let me put in context, because people with albinism are stigmatized and discriminated as really big. We too have health challenges. But now on the issue of stigma, you realize that people with albinism themselves have self-stigma of, I meet someone, they've not done nothing, but I know they're going to maybe throw a bad word, give me a bad name, you know? So that challenge is there, that even when I'm giving you a platform to speak, the one that self-esteem is low, self-stigma, and now that is internal. On the other hand, we have a society that is really hardened to close us out. So it's hard to penetrate into this society. We need to be very loud and say, guys, we're here, you need to listen to us. We are part of this whole agenda. So yes, that is one big challenge. And then two, because albinism has a lot of myths and misconceptions, and many are rotating around cultural beliefs, norms. In our African setting, so to speak, when you can't understand something, you get a way to explain it. And most of these beliefs have really deep-rooted cultural beliefs that we are dealing with. So that alone in itself is a big hindrance. Two, because the policymakers now at national level have not embraced, or they are trying to embrace albinism, it's still a challenge to penetrate that level, high level agenda. If, for instance, in Uganda, people with albinism were not in the disability movement, were not classified at all. So how can you even plan for people you do not know? One of the things that we're really doing yesterday was to see a huge milestone that people with albinism are included in the People with Disability Act that was passed in Parliament. But now more so, an act is a big step. How do we make this operational? And then, it was really engaging to see that issues are in there at that level. So it is huge, navigating from top to down, yet we are bringing up people who are you also pulling them to say, guys, please believe you are human. Others do not actually believe it because of their life experiences. It's sad, yeah. Some people have been made to believe that you're not fully human, you'll actually disappear, So it's a huge challenge bringing someone to table and say, hey, you are part of this and you need to believe, and it is you to speak until they hear that you're up to the task.
Thank you so much, Olive. So the International Albinism Day is coming up on June 13th. So how do you engage the public in reporting on issues faced by people living with albinism? Is there any cooperation or support from authorities? And how can institution like albinism, organization like Albinism Umbrella influence support of the public and the government?
Thank you again for that question. International Albinism Day, when it was constituted in 2014 actually, and first celebrated in 2015, as a leader for me, that was the ignition key that I needed. That if we have been recognized by the UN and then even a day has been given to us, yeah, we didn't need nothing. So first we went to the UN Human Rights Office. They were the authors. So we knocked on their door and said, guys, you've brought us in. So can you help us get to this day, as the name is, Awareness Day? But who are we going to make aware if, one, the leaders are not part? So right from the beginning of the celebrations, that we really needed to have them at national level, not some parish village somewhere, no. So it was very deliberate that we identified the key ministries, and that is the Ministry of Health, because we have very huge challenges in health, then education, and then our mother ministry, which is the Ministry of Gender. These have always been on our invitation list. But we're also cognizant of the fact that there are other state agencies that we need. For instance, in Uganda, there is what we call the Equal Opportunities Commission. This was a very relevant body, and we said, you will not have equal opportunity until we are on board. And we have had very fruitful engagements ever since. Every June 13th, at least, we have a celebration where we have those key stakeholders part. And we've put it a notch higher, where in Uganda we have members of parliament who are from the disability fraternity. These are a must. So if you are a voice in parliament, then you need to hear our issues. And some of them have really been forthcoming. And truth be told, we have got a working relationship with the Speaker of Parliament as Albinism Umbrella. And it's through these efforts that she's got to know. Oh, I need to note that actually the very first International Albinism Day, we had her as the guest of honor. That is the Speaker of Parliament. So we really, really strive to hit high.
That's great.
And we've seen fruit in this engagement.
No, you were saying.
Did I miss you?
No, please
Okay.
continue.
Yeah, we've seen fruitful steps into this, where in the Ministry of Education, like in the special needs sector, learners with albinism now have a special consideration. When they're going to do their national exams, they are given a larger font than the average. In school, we're really trying to say, guys, can we have teachers give reasonable accommodation? And we see all this coming up at a policy level.
That's great. I was going to ask that, like, since the International Albinism Day started, what additions, additions that have you seen so far to the movement? And that is really great to hear that it's moving up even to the policy level. Recently, Albinism Umbrella conducted a special mapping on people living with albinism in Uganda, if I'm correct. So what is the utility of such exercise in protecting the people with albinism, and how will that further Albinism Umbrella's work to make the world a safer place for people living with albinism?
I missed the question a little bit in the middle. The utility, pardon me, on
yes,
around the second step.
It's fine. I was asking, what is the utility of carrying out the spatial mapping? What is the value of it? What will it do in protecting the people living with albinism and making the world a safer place for people living with albinism?
Okay. Thank you. One, like I told you, people with albinism were not recognized, not even planned for, but more so, this being a rare condition, for us to plead the case, you need to come with evidence. And one of the things or the questions that I can't say personally I've always been confronted with is, but how many are you? You know, it could be only Olive that they're seeing. Where are you? You know, so that question that every policymaker, even if you go to the hospitals, they're like, but how do we plan? How many are you? What do you really need? Are the numbers that sufficient? And of course, as an advocate, I say, even if we attend, we are worth your attention. Truth be told, we're more than that, perhaps over more than 10,000 in Uganda, but we would not convince our leaders until you have evidence-based information that is verifiable. So this spatial mapping that we did, we used every credible source to have it authenticated. Different people do research, but we went to the top, the National Council of Science and Technology, because we're using digital tools, using GPS has security concerns. So we got approval right from the State House. That's how far it went. Now, with such a rigorous process, this information, one, is very credible. Two, you have already gained understanding in the line of authority about persons with albinism. So them hearing you're going to do a sort of census, so to speak, they're like, okay, so what do you want to do? What next? But even then, in the research itself, people with albinism have been employed as research assistants. Now, for us, this was an opportunity to include, but also empower persons with albinism into, even if it's just digital collection of this information, going out to somebody's home. I mean, the stories are enormous of how it changed their lives. So it is really, really impactful, because in the exercise itself, we would go to every district leader. We ask them, do you have people with albinism here? Do you even know their problems? And truth be told, some of them were like, I really don't know, maybe I've seen one or seen three. So you put them to task, so what have you done for this category? And they don't know, or they have nothing. So for us, this has been a big opportunity, one, to bring the leadership at that district level to know about our plight. Two, we've, and like a point of success, in one of the districts, bylaws are underway to protect people with albinism. And for us, we celebrate every small milestone. For instance, children in school, they're saying, please don't take them out for break when it is hot and you're giving them physical exercise. In our villages, because the levels of economic empowerment are small, you have one uniform, you use it for physical exercise, so they tell you remove the shirt. You know, it is acceptable, but for us, we're saying no. For a child with albinism, this is unacceptable. You're in a hospital, you're making a line and it is in the sun. Can we have those small milestones? If you see a person with albinism, let them go to the front, because they cannot afford to stand. And we're seeing these small, but yes, moving in the right direction. So this kind of exercise is really opening up a lot of debate and conversation that has seen us now, I should say, get to the level of policy being included there. Applied has gone that far.
Great. I'm so happy to hear about the important milestones that you have achieved in your fight for people's rights living with albinism. So in your years of advocacy, what are some of the key lessons you can share with us, or perhaps someone else doing any work on advocacy, not necessarily around albinism?
Yeah, what we've learned in the few years of advocacy we've done is, first of all, you need to map your allies, to map who is for you really, really strong. And two, you need to cause, not so the allies, but yes, have people talk about your issue, because we can't do this alone. So the strength in partnerships, movement building are really, really strong. And also foresee the challenges and go for them before they come. For lack of a better word, there is always an opponent of some sort. So can you, one, foresee them and bring them on board? Or how do we navigate around those challenges? So for us, these have been key lessons of how many allies can we get on our side to talk about our issue, but also what are those bottlenecks that we think, can we win them on our side, or how do we go around that? For us in advocacy, that has come out strong, but also the consistency of the message. What do you want to go out? You know, are we saying, you know, albinism is scientifically this? Are we saying it's because they believe this? So that systematic messaging and saying, this is what we want to be known, this is how we want to be called, you know? So those are, for us, a few lessons that we've learned along the advocacy path so far.
Awesome. So I'm curious, Olive, what's the craziest thing you've done in the name of advocacy? What is the craziest thing you've done in the name of advocacy?
Yeah, I had that question. Excuse me. One of those things that really got me, I think, out of my box. Let me just give a small background to it, okay?
Yes.
So there was this child, there was a child, I think she was 7 years by then, who had been in a school, and they changed the head teacher. So when she advanced in another class, she needed to join the boarding section. And you have to fill some forms for you to move from day scholar to the boarding section. So the parent goes to the school and says, I want my daughter to join the boarding because she moves too early. And for concern of security, we said, okay, they agreed as a family that she joins us, the boarding section. On going to the office, the head teacher says, no, we can't have a child like her in the boarding section. So the mother is very confused. It's like, I've been in this school for more years, she's been there, I think, for 5 years. Fast forward, she gets to us for help, or to me for help, and says, have you ever been in a boarding school? You know, these are the challenges that we face every day. So I love solving issues amicably. So I physically went there myself with a parent, and he didn't give us audience. Now that got me mad. So I remember going to the Ministry of Education like a mad woman. I said, I need to be heard. I need to be heard. So yes, that story, it was a bit crazy. So moving from outside Kampala to whatever fastest means I had to the Ministry of Education, I didn't want to report nowhere else but to the ministry. Yeah, the long story is we got hard, the head teacher fined, but it was crazy moving from that school to the ministry. Yeah, that's what I think I can relate to in the name of advocacy.
Yeah, that's a very good example. I can imagine. Thank you so much for sharing your work on albinism, or fighting for the rights of albinism, and for encouraging. I'm sure your words have encouraged people working on advocacy too, and people who do not really have a knowledge about the work you do around albinism would have learned a thing or two from what we've discussed. So thank you very much for sharing all that with us.
You're welcome. Welcome. Thank you.